yeah, hold on, hold on to your seats, batten down the hatches, because I think it's a good thing. On the other side of the crisis, it's going to be much better, I would say, even though for the great majority of people, the people who watch the mainstream media, the people who believe everything they're told by the powers that be, they're going to think it's the end of the world. But I think it's going to be new beginnings. Thursday, May 11th, 2023, Maneco 64, Home of Alternative Economics and Contrarian Views. It feels like all the details and things like the Fed is going to pause rate hikes during the summer, CPI, yeah, all the details are irrelevant right now. And why do I say that? Well, I think we are in historic times. We have a 234-year experiment hanging in the balance. Yes, that's what we're going to look at today. Yes, Rudy has settled down. I've been trying to get him to settle down on the sofa, and that's good. He's following in Billy's footsteps. So what's this 234-year experiment? Well, it's the first Congress of the United States. It's when the Constitution of the United States was finally put into practice, and that was on March 4th, 1789. Yes, and it started in New York City at Federal Hall. So I know a lot of you in the States know about this, but I just thought I would refresh you. This is an experiment that has been going on for 234 years, and it has been fairly smooth. Yes, there have been some crises along the way, like the Civil War in 1861, 1865, where the Union actually broke up. The United States broke up, and they were able to put it back together. Whether that was good or bad is for another, maybe another video. But I also wanted to refer you to something called the Strauss-Howe Generational Theory. And these two men, they wrote a book called The Fourth Turning, and I highly recommend it. So this is what Wikipedia says here. The Strauss-Howe Generational Theory, devised by William Strauss and Neil Howe, describes a theorized recurring generational cycle in American history and Western history. So a little further on the Fourth Turning, it says here, Strauss and Howe laid the groundwork for their theory in their book Generations, The History of America's Future, 1584 to 2069. Which discusses the history of the United States as a series of generational biographies going back to 1584. In their book, The Fourth Turning, 1997, and I first heard of this book over 20 years ago. One of my clients in the States told me about this book, The Fourth Turning. It says the authors expanded the theory to focus on a fourfold cycle of generational types and recurring mood eras to describe the history of the United States, including the 13 colonies and their British antecedents. However, the authors have also examined generational trends elsewhere in the world. So I'm going to put a link to this Wikipedia piece on the Fourth Turning and the generational theory. Suffice it to say, basically, they count generations in around 20 years. Every 20 years, there's a new generation. And they called the final turning of what they call the millennial saculum. And this has lasted 77 years already. They called it from 2008, and we're in the 15th year. So usually in these fourth turnings, there are major events like back in the revolutionary seculum, when the U.S. had its revolution. The fourth turning was from 1773 to 1794. And during the Civil War seculum, the fourth turning was between, from like around the mid-1840s to the mid-1860s with the end of the Civil War. And then you had the Great Power seculum. And the fourth turning was during the Great Depression and World War II. This fourth turning has been called the Great Recession, COVID-19 pandemic, and the Russo-Ukrainian War. So there's still a lot that could happen in the next 3 to 5 years, I would say. And that's why I think it's really important to look at the bigger picture. And I think this is why things look so unsettled. There's so much, not just political instability and division. There's economic troubles. There's a lot of debt. There's inflation. There's wars, proxy wars, or whatever you want to call it. And that's why I think what's happening in the next couple of weeks actually could be pretty historic, and it could put an end to the United States experiment that started really on March 4th, as I said, 1789, with the first Congress of the United States. So yes, we're now in the 117th Congress, and could they bring down the experiment that the United States has been? And it's hasn't been just an experiment for the U.S., but for the whole world. There has, of course, been good and bad from this experiment. But one thing I would say is that, it's the bottom in terms of chaos, mayhem, wars, and after that things get better. That's one positive, I would say, looking at what happened after those fourth turnings. So what makes me think that it's hanging in the balance? Well, there seems to be very little will for negotiation between Congress and the administration. And even Donald Trump yesterday, according to the FT, it says here, Trump calls for U.S. debt default in absence of massive spending cuts. Former president piles pressure on Republicans in borrowing limit fight during town hall appearance. Just quickly go through the beginning of this article. Donald Trump urged Republican lawmakers to let the U.S. default on its debt unless Democrats capitulate to demands for massive spending cuts, a significant intervention by the former president as Washington contends with a looming fiscal crisis. So I think it's getting serious, and there will be a lot of uncertainty. What will happen to the markets? It's very difficult to say, and it's ironic as well that the Federal Hall is located on Wall Street here, just beside the New York Stock Exchange, as you can see. So the other thing that happens in these fourth turnings, of course, aside from economic troubles, inflation, debt, and also war, is political instability, and we're seeing things that we've never seen before. And of course, the mainstream media is going to try to avoid talking about it, but I can't help talk about RFK Jr., the fact that he's running for president. I don't think people should ignore that, even though the mainstream will call him every name under the sun. But he's coming out with some truths, I think, in my opinion, that is going to rip the mask off the deep state, so to speak. The apocalypse, that's what it is, the unmasking of the system. And I think this could all be related. I listened to one of his interviews over 3 years ago with, I'll put the link to it up in the description, up in the cards, YouTube, where he talks about the CIA and the assassination of his uncle and his father, actually. So I'll leave it at that. But with that as well, I've been looking into this matter for many, many years, or even decades. And I have a couple of books that I recommend, not only about the JFK assassination, but the CIA and what it does. So this is one that I highly recommend, The Secret Team by L. Fletcher Prouty. It's about, well, it says here, the CIA and its allies in control of the United States and the world. So could the fourth turning, whatever way it ends, could it be the death knell for institutions like the CIA, the deep state mentality? Well, it could very well be. And a default of the U.S. could help accelerate that, I would say. And the other book, before I forget, is this one here, JFK and the Unspeakable and Why He Died and Why It Matters by James W. Douglas. There you go. That's a very good one too. That's why I said in the beginning as well that a lot of the details are almost like irrelevant right now. Like I saw this story that came out yesterday, I think, or overnight in the Wall Street Journal. And this is from the Fed whisperer, Nick Timiraos. And he says, why the April inflation report reinforces the Fed's plan to pause summer break appears likely as officials monitor effects of banking stress. So I thought the banks made loads of profits in the first quarter. They're okay. So that's out there, but this would become highly irrelevant if there's a default. And I would say that not only would the CIA existence be in question, but also the Federal Reserve's existence. And the Federal Reserve, of course, is a central bank, and the United States has always had, and the founding fathers, most of them didn't really like central banks, especially Jefferson, I would say, and also a bit later, Andrew Jackson. So that would be something that would feel very chaotic for most people who don't understand the parasitic nature of central banks and the fact that they control the currency, and they have been controlling it for 110 years. So I think for those of us who know what's happening, if there is total chaos and a default, hold on to your seats, batten down the hatches, because I think it's a good thing. On the other side of the crisis, it's going to be much better, I would say, even though for the great majority of people, the people who watch the mainstream media, the people who believe everything they're told by the powers that be, they're going to think it's the end of the world. But I think it's going to be new beginnings. So there you go. Some people think I'm always negative, but I'm actually positive about what's going on. And I'm happy that Rudy is kept quiet as well. He's going to get a treat afterwards. So let's look at the markets this morning. It's 8:38 a.m. And like I said, difficult to say what's going to happen if there is a default of the United States. It won't only affect the United States, it will affect the whole world. I guess we could say that it could be similar to what happened at the outbreak of World War I in 1914. I think even the New York Stock Exchange closed for a few months. What's going to happen now? I don't know. Maybe nothing will happen in terms of the markets. People will keep trading, but I don't see it, because if the U.S. defaults, the currency that is at the base of the whole global financial system is no more. So just think about that. And to be honest, I've never been in this environment. I guess you have to go back to, well, maybe 234 years ago. And yeah, none of us were there back then. So anyway, we've got spot gold at 2026. It's down about $4. High's been 2036 and the low 2021. Silver has been hammered this morning here. We got down below 25, a low at 24.95, and I noticed on the chart the slam came around 7 a.m. London, 8 a.m. European time, and I think that's when the bankers in Europe come in. So I wouldn't be surprised if they smash the futures, the COMEX futures. COMEX futures, of course, you can trade them in London through your broker, through JP Morgan or whoever. But right now, silver is at 25.05. It's down 34 cents or 1.35%. Not sure what has made silver go down so much. Anyway, the Dow futures is up 68 points. NASDAQ is up 31. S&P is up 14. And one thing that is interesting is that they're talking about the Fed pausing. The Fed raised rates from near 0 to 5.25 now. And despite that, we still have a huge stock market bubble. So the way I see it, they haven't really done anything to contain the inflation. But then again, most people don't seem to understand what inflation really is. So let's continue to the currencies now. We've got sterling down a third at 125.80. Yeah, and we got the Bank of England today. They're expected to raise rates to 4.5%. It's been telegraphed, so don't expect much in terms of market reaction, maybe except for some comments that they make at their press conference. And in terms of press conference, I contacted the Bank of England over a month ago. I forgot exactly about exactly what it was. I contacted their press office, and they even asked me, "Oh, would you like to maybe come to the press conference for the next meeting?" I said, "Yes, I'd love to." And I told them about my YouTube channel, and I gave them my email, and I never heard back from them. So I guess they don't want to have difficult questions for Andrew Bailey at the press conference. It would have been interesting. The euro is down almost 0.5% at 109.32. So the dollar is a little stronger here this morning. Maybe that's why silver has come off, but gold actually is holding quite well. Dollar's unchanged versus the yen, 134.50. The dollar is unchanged versus the yuan, 694.40. Let's check out the ruble. Well, the dollar's down another percent at 75.50. So I hadn't covered the ruble for a while until a few weeks ago. And when I started covering it again, the dollar was at 82. So the dollar has come off quite a bit versus the ruble in the last few weeks. To the other currencies here, Rudy's getting a little bit restless. Aussie dollar is down 0.2%, 67.36. Dollar's up 1/4 versus the Canadian dollar, 134.05, and the Kiwi dollar is down 0.5%, 63.39. Quickly to the commodities, WTI crude is up 0.75% at 73. Brent crude is up 0.2%, 76.80. Platinum is down $11 at 1107, 1,107. High grade copper is down 1.75%, at 377. So copper getting hit hard here. That's a bad signal in terms of what people think of the economy. Or could it be that the markets expect a default of the biggest country in the world, the country that really controls the major reserve currency? Who knows? Let's quickly look at the bond market here. The U.S. Treasury market. What have we got? Well, we've got the 1 month T-bill actually up 18 basis points. It's at 570 right now. That's to do with the possibility of a debt default by the Treasury, of course. We've got the 2-year up 2 basis points at 392, and the 10-year basically unchanged at 343. So the curve is massively inverted. I already think we've been in a recession ever since the '08 crisis. So it doesn't really matter if we're in recession or not, because it's all been, they've been putting lipstick on the pig, not just in the US, but in the UK. And how do they do that? Through government deficit spending that adds to the GDP calculation. So with that, I'm gonna wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.